Putting it to the cloud.
Okay, then it'll send you a link, and all you have to do is send me that link. Okay?
Okay.
All right, I'm going back to share my screen, and I'll be ready to roll.
Okay. Perfect.
I think, can you speak up a little bit and then we can turn the laptop toward all of you?
Yeah. The way he can see some of you. Yeah. All right. Well, sorry, let's check our time here. Yeah. All right. Well, we're very excited to have um, Dr. Charles Camarda with us today. And we are recording the session, as most of you heard. And he has some exciting news to share with us that I haven't heard about either. So we're all looking forward to it. And he was with STS 114 and is now the founder and CEO of Epic Education Foundation and the Epic Challenge programs, which is what we're going to learn about. So welcome, Dr. Camarda, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Barbara. And like I said, I wish I could have been there live. I love Florida. We'll be down there May 22nd. And I want to special thanks for the folks at Fun and Son for allowing me to present to you today. Something that's near and dear to my heart, education. I started, as Barbara said, I started the Epic Education Foundation. And the talk today is going to be on ways that we see that we could transform education, taking advantage of technology and some interesting pedagogy. And so, just a little bit about the foundation, our vision, and why we're doing what we do is because we really see this as a national and worldwide problem. We don't have enough people, young students graduating, going into careers in STEM. Our mission is really to create this virtual ecosystem where we can create content and link students and top-notch educators around the world with meaningful content. And we can evaluate how those students are performing by connecting them with the subject matter experts and also with what we call epic challenges. Our philosophy, our core ideology and value is basically everything we do, we want to make open and available to students around the world. I mean, there's too much going on. We need to share what we do, and we need to spread the joy of all these phenomenal educators. Okay, so why did I get into this? It was after the Columbia accident. I saw we had some problems, and I started researching why is the United States having so many issues with education, and why are we not graduating enough students in this pipeline? And this is a slide from Melanie Dumas at DARPA in 2010. She looked at filling the knowledge gap, filling the student job gap in computer science. And what she learned was that we have hundreds and hundreds of programs to reach students and attract students in computer science. However, none of these programs are integrated. And so these students go to a program, we're not measuring what the students learn. And more importantly, we're not scaffolding that knowledge so that we could guide these students on what's the next program they need to take in order to accomplish that dream. If their dream is to become a computer scientist, right? I worked with a chief learning scientist at Boeing named Michael Ritchie. This is his chart. And this is the pipeline. This is the problem. We lose about 80% of students lose interest in STEM by the seventh grade. By freshman year in college, we only have about 9% of the students actually continue in STEM. And by the time they graduate, we only graduate about 4.5% of all the students that go on for careers in STEM. And less than 2% go into education, engineering. And so when I looked at this, I said, well, why is this happening? And I think I know why we're losing these top kids, even kids that were really good in STEM at in freshman year. We lose them by sophomore, junior year. And I think it's because the students do not see their connection with their passion. They're taking these very hard subjects in freshman year, but they don't see how it relates to what they want to be. In my case, an astronaut, an aerospace engineer. Okay, Jane McGonigal wrote a great book when I started studying this to understand why students are addicted to gaming. And she says it's basically because kids want to feel they're part of something bigger than themselves. And when I say kids, I mean kids my age, 68 years old also, right? And so one of the quotes was, in today's society, computer and video games are fulfilling genuine human needs that the real world is currently unable to satisfy. Games are providing rewards that reality is not, believe it or not, right? And so this is what I couldn't understand, because little Charlie Camarda, growing up in Queens, New York in the 1950s and 1960s, this was the epic challenge: the space race with Russia, astronauts exploring space, landing on the moon. This was the epic challenge, right? This is what drove me to do what I did to graduate, right? And so when you look at that effect of that Apollo effect, is what I call it, on education, basically what we saw was that it doubled the rate of kids graduating and going into for advanced degrees in aerospace engineering, science, technology, and math, right? The kids going into science led to more entrepreneurship, more patents, and it had a total effect on our economy and made us the great nation we are today. I think we're at that tipping point right now where we're able to experience another Apollo effect with the resurgence of people, commercial um, folks, companies going into space. And so we could take advantage of this, especially our good friends at the Space Coast down there in Florida. Now, as Barbara said, I flew right after the Columbia accident, but I was training in Russia when we saw this large piece of foam, and we learned that we lost our good friends and our classmates and colleagues with the loss of Columbia. And I thought, what a tragedy. How could we not know that this was a problem? We had a serious problem with engineering at NASA, right? For us to make this terrible decision. And so that's when I came back to the United States. I ended up getting on the next mission. I became director of engineering. But this is when I really decided we could use this to change the way NASA basically teaches and mentors its young. And so, with this Epic Challenge program, we're looking at killing three birds with one stone. The motivation, I believe NASA and lots of companies, there are many challenges out there. It doesn't just have to be in aerospace. We have to hype these challenges, make them epic, make them almost impossible to solve, to get students, to grab students. The other thing we need to do is we need to change the way we educate. Okay, I was training in Russia with a very old, dated pedagogy, basically memorize and repeat what your instructor was telling you. So we're taking advantage of active learning, problem-based learning, and something that I'm going to talk about that we learned working with our friends in Finland, called phenomenon-based learning. The other bird that we need to attack is innovation. These challenges require us to think critically and to work together collectively in teams to come up with creative solutions to these problems. Okay, I created this methodology. It's called Innovative Conceptual Engineering Design, or ICED. Been teaching it for about 12 years. The thing we do is we work with teams of students. We teach them how to work together in teams. We teach them how to learn as teams collectively. Totally immerse them in the challenge. We teach them how to go out there and search and curate new knowledge related to this challenge. Then we teach them how to work together, and we give them tools to work together creatively. We teach them biologically inspired design, functional decomposition, trees, brainstorming, whatever it takes to get them to work together as a team in a psychologically safe environment to come up with crazy ideas, creative ideas to solve the problem. Then we teach them how to evaluate their ideas. And then we teach them how to rapidly analyze, design, prototype, and test these ideas, what we call rapid concept development. We teach them how to fail smart, fast, small, cheap, early, and often. And that's very important. Okay. We teach them the joy of failure and learning from failure. When we look at phenomenon-based learning and we compare it to conventional classroom teaching, and we look at Bloom's taxonomy, which is a very linear progression from knowledge. We impart knowledge to the students. We ask them to regurgitate it back to understand and evaluate. If they comprehend it, then can they apply it? We have these different levels of cognition. And what you see here on the right is phenomenon-based learning. We start with the phenomenon, and it could be sustaining humans in Mars. Then we ask the students to learn everything they possibly can about this subject, right? Then we teach them to break down that or functionally decompose that knowledge into all its individual components. Then we show them as they're learning using concept mapping how this knowledge is related and why it has to be related in order for them to come up with solutions to the problem. And so phenomenon-based learning is kind of this roller coaster. It's teaching the students. What I learned from the Finns is that we teach the students, we give the students accountability for teaching themselves, for learning, and we show them how to teach themselves. And so that's this roller coaster effect, a problem-based, phenomenon-based learning. And this is from one of our educators, James Gorman. When you map out that learning over using the ICED methodology, you see this roller coaster kind of effect as they're cycling through their analysis, design, prototype, test. They're cycling in and out of this applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating modes of cognition. Now we had to uh, we had to actually demonstrate this. We used this methodology with this people at NASA that had to solve the impact problem. We had to understand the physics of foam hitting the wing leading edge to determine if it really caused the problem. So we teach the students this building block approach, just like real scientists at NASA. And here you see them testing foam at different speeds and the analysis they used in order to model what actually happened, how that foam deforms and how it breaks apart, how it fails. They then step to impacting that foam on a piece of the wing leading edge, which the foam hit on Columbia. And now you could see we're understanding the physics of how that foam, how that carbon-carbon wing leading edge behaves and when will it fail. We teach them that this modeling and simulation is necessary because now they could use their analytical models and they could basically understand the physics of any problem that they can imagine, and they can analyze and model using the computer. And so that's exactly what these engineers did. And so they modeled that large piece of foam hitting the wing leading edge. And then they went ahead and they conducted a large scale test. But if you notice, you look at the damage they predicted before they actually ran the test, you look at this huge hole that it made in the wing leading edge. Then the scientists went and they actually tested the full scale wing leading edge in San Antonio. And this is a live test. They shot the foam at 545 miles an hour. And so when NASA conducted this test, this is when they realized that that large piece of foam probably caused a pizza box size hole in the wing leading edge when the crew was on orbit. But the people on the ground didn't have these tools, right? So they thought it wasn't going to be a problem. But yet we had the knowledge at NASA to solve this problem, and they solved it in 3 months. So now, knowing that foam could cause very large damage, before we fly the next mission, the next epic challenge was really how do we fix this in space? And so this was the real challenge. This is where I took just me and another astronaut, Don Pettit. We went into his laboratory garage and we came up with innovative ways of solving the problem and testing them, basically using this ICE methodology, right? And so we stepped through, we came up with these very cool ideas for basically having flexible patches. We created a tool for basically drilling and tapping holes through the wing leading edge. And then what we would do is we would fasten these patches on the wing leading edge. Now remember that we had to do this with spacewalking astronauts, right? So this was the laboratory. This is where I got the idea that, you know what? We could take hundreds and thousands of students, cram them into a virtual Don Pettit garage, and we can ask them to help us solve these challenges. And so Don and I basically were cycling through dozens of ideas, failing, testing, and learning as quick as possible until we actually came up with the actual solution that we flew in space. One of the things I learned by doing this was the connection with the subject matter experts that Charlie Camarda knew because of my 46 years working at NASA. One of them was Dr. Peter Naffo. And so I called this the Friends of Charlie Network. I asked him to conduct aerothermal analysis using CFD, computational fluid dynamics, and predict what we had to do to design this patch so it wouldn't burn up during Earth entry. With that knowledge, we basically came up with the final design that we flew in space. And this is me simulating how an astronaut would actually fix a hole in a wing leading edge by doing a spacewalk and using the tools that we developed. And so we basically flew 18 of these patches on my mission in case we had a problem. Now, before we started doing this in Don Pettit's garage, many people said it was impossible to do this, but basically we proved them wrong. And this is just me with two of the drill bits that we actually flew in space, just in case. When I came back from space, I was director of engineering. And then I was working for the NASA Engineering and Safety Center. And my boss, Ralph Rose, said, "Why don't you teach NASA engineers how to do this?" This is when we created the methodology, the ICED methodology, with professors from Penn State, Georgia Tech, and MIT. We had 30 young NASA engineers in 2008 out at Penn State. We taught them this methodology, and we had them for 1 week. And the problem we had to solve was land landing of the Orion capsule. As you know, NASA and the United States has not been able to land any of its space capsules on land. And so this was a challenge that NASA could not solve. We basically had 30 young NASA engineers from 7 different NASA centers. We got them through this methodology in this 1 week workshop. And we're going to hold workshops like this around the world in before school starts next year, where we use their learning factory to model some of the ideas. They came up with dozens of ideas during that 1 week, these NASA engineers. We took only one of them. We handed it off to a master's degree student at MIT and teamed him up with a couple of undergraduates from Penn State and MIT. And this small student team was able to come up with a solution to the problem using airbags inside the Orion capsule and doing full scale testing, that they came up with a solution to the problem that not only NASA couldn't solve, but their solution would save mass and it would increase the habitable volume of the space capsule in orbit. So this kind of proved to us that the methodology would work and that we could actually connect with students to help us solve these challenges. So this is the framework for the EPIC Challenge program. We start with the challenge. We have sponsors that help fund the challenge. The challenge that we've been looking at for several years was sustaining humans on Mars. We pick subject matter experts from the government, from industry and academia, right? And we create the methodology, we create the curriculum. We go out to multiple different universities. We connect graduate students, a team of graduate students from these universities, and teams of undergraduate students from these universities to help solve this challenge. We've been doing this at Kennedy Space Center with things like the robotic mining competition that the Swamp Works at Kennedy Space Center initiated 10 years ago. In order to make this work, we need to connect those graduates, undergraduates, technical community colleges, high school, and middle school. This year, we're keying on university, community college, and high school students. And what you'll see happen is that usually the creative solutions to these problems usually come from the youngest students, right? And the mentorship flows down. It flows from the graduate students and the subject matter experts down to the educators at the lower levels. Okay. And those educators, those near peers, and those students that are just a little bit older are are the role models for these younger students. So in the United States, we've been doing this. We started at um, at Penn State with the NASA engineers. When I was teaching at NYU, we worked with over 40 high schools, undergraduates, graduate students in the New York area. We taught this with in New Jersey with Stevens Institute, and we went up to MIT, Penn State, and Georgia Tech. Over the past 10 years, we've reached about 8 universities, about 300 high schools, 5,000 students in the United States. And this is just a list of some of the challenges, all related to space. But this past year, we did a COVID challenge called the Pandemic Proof World, where students in the United States and around the world were helping us solve solutions for the pandemic. We took this program to Finland. For the past 6 years, we've operated in Finland. And you might ask, why Finland? Because it's one of those countries that has been leading the world in education in the PISA scores around the world. Finland is always right up there. Also, their approach to education is totally different than the United States. They're more into collaboration, personalized learning. It's based on trust as opposed to test accountability. And so it's very much models the way the Epic Education Foundation wants to work. In Finland, we started in 2015. We had 20 students there in one university, at University of Eastern Finland, and it has grown to over 500 students in Finland. We've also experimented with not only formal learning, where the students take this as a class for credit, but also after school, and also as a elective. These are the types of skills that the students learn, very much teaching them how to work together in teams, how to learn in teams, how to create a psychologically safe environment, how to network and search for the information they need, not only the information and content, but also reach out to subject matter experts around the world. Teach them the whole idea of systems engineering. They might be solving a small part of the challenge, but they have to understand how it's connected to the big picture. How is this going to help us sustain humans on the surface of another planet or the moon? And we also teach them how to be creative, how to work synergistically to come up with innovative solutions to the problem. This is just one of the teams that we had in Finland. It's called the BioMars team. If you go to YouTube and you Google or you search for BioMars, this is the link. This is one of their solutions for sustaining humans on Mars, right? So lots of people in the United States and around the world have been looking at growing plants. This is the first time I saw a team of students basically look at not only ants, but insects in a closed environment, right? Where the insects are basically consuming the oxygen, giving off carbon dioxide for the plants and also fertilizer. And in this case, it was crickets, could be basically used for food. And these students actually, it was a team of students with a graduate student, undergraduate students, and high school students, but they also had students that were not technical. They had a chef on this team that basically did a study on how to make consumable products using insects and basically made cookies and muffins and proved that, yeah, they were edible and could sustain humans. So what I want to talk about now is in May 22nd, we are going to have an educator workshop at Kennedy Space Center. And we're trying to get as many educators in the high school, community college, and graduate level to attend. We have a big space at the Center for Space Education. We could fit probably about 150 people. Typically, you could fit 300 people there. We're going to show you how this methodology works. And we would like for you to bring as many friends, tell your friends in the area, get educators from different levels to attend. um, the hope is to get schools these different areas interested, high schools, universities interested, and then we will have 1 week workshops just like we did at MIT, Penn State, and Georgia Tech, where we train the educators and we develop a curriculum for next year. Next year, we're looking at using robots to design robots to basically process regolith on the moon. And we're going to have keynote speakers. We're going to have industry participants. We're going to have partners that basically are helping us develop tools for the students to use in the classroom. And we will help teach the educators to make the curriculum for the students. So one of the questions that I'm posing to you, and I'm putting it out there on the internet, are what are the top 3 things that you think it takes to solve an epic challenge? If you could go online at Charlie Camarda and Twitter and Instagram, tell me your replies. Meet me on May 22nd at Kennedy Space Center Visitors Complex. Join our program, and we'll give out prizes for the folks that come up with the most innovative ideas or ideas that we have never heard of or thought of. Okay, I am going to close. I want to thank you, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to open it up for questions because I think we have plenty of time for questions.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I like. I want people that are not shy to ask questions.
At the Kennedy Space Center event.
I can't hear you.
okay, if you just say it louder, he'll hear you.
At
Now
the
I can hear you.
Okay, the Kennedy Space Center event, I saw the link at the bottom. Is that a link that brings you to signing up and registering, or?
Yes, yes. You want me to go back so you could take a picture of it?
Oh, I got it, I just want to make sure that's the approach. You register there. Is
Yes.
there a fee associated with the registration?
Yeah, it's a small fee. I think we're only asking like 25.
Okay.
$25. It'll be a 2-day event, really a day and a half. And at the end of the second day, I think I'm going to take everybody on a tour of the Space Center complex, especially the space shuttle display. Maybe we'll take a walk through and we'll learn about space shuttle firsthand from somebody that actually was in there. And we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to actually get teams of educators to basically form teams of educators. So we're going to put you through the same drill that we do with the students, and it's going to be fun. We're going to have a robot. We're going to show you how to work together in teams. It's going to be very brief, so we're not going to be able to teach you the actual methods. But if you're interested in doing this in the classroom next year, then what we would recommend is that you sign up for these 1 week workshops, and we'll come down there. We'll have people from around the world basically zooming in virtually to help us train the educators, and we will help you work with the curriculum and building the curriculum for next year. What I really want to do to make the magic happen, and this is something we haven't done yet, haven't accomplished yet. We need to connect the high schools with the technical colleges and the universities in the area. So if we can get the University of Central Florida, Florida Institute of Technology, Embry-Riddle, and some of the technical colleges there, what we want to do is show them how each of these levels of education fit together and how they work together. Because really what I've seen is that these students, when they see kids from university coming to their classroom, it makes it seem doable. It's not the astronaut in the blue suit. It's someone that's closer to their age, and it helps keep them interested. And more questions. We have plenty of time. Go ahead.
Thank you for being here today. For one, this has been awesome. I am secondary science curriculum specialist for Polk County Public Schools, and I would be very interested in learning more and assisting you with some of those contacts you were just asking about. So I am wondering if we can connect.
Absolutely. Did you get my email?
I did.
Okay, so at Charlie, if you just go to Charlie at epiceducationfoundation.org, we'll make those connections. I might actually be down in Florida on May 12th to actually at another meeting. I was just at I was at a STEM symposium for Florida leadership in a couple of days ago, and there are a tremendous number of really great people in Florida trying to totally transform education. I'd love to work with you guys and get the ball rolling. And, you know, the Astronaut Memorial Foundation and Dad Stevens and the folks at the Center for Space Education, they're phenomenal. I can't say enough good things. And so the partnerships that we're developing and the tools we're developing for these students, you know, we're teaming up with Siemens so that even high school students and all the students and the schools that are working with us will have free access to Siemens products for computer aided design, computer aided engineering and manufacturing. We're partnering with teams in Brazil that are actually going to create online in the cloud modeling and simulation so the students can simulate their robots in a simulated environment, run their robots in a simulated environment in a cloud based so that they don't have to have a computer. They can basically use any mobile device. And we're trying to make it affordable and as interesting as possible for all these students because we want to reach students in the rural areas as well as the urban areas. As you well know, they suffer the most.
Can I piggyback off of her question?
Sure.
When you're looking to make these connections with the high schools, the universities, and the community colleges, are you looking at specifically things like the engineering department, the education department, the science department? Are there certain departments specifically that you are?
That is a great question. And this is the problem with education, and this is the problem with NASA. We do everything in silos, right? And this is why NASA is broke. This is why the best universities are broke, like MIT, right? All these problems are multidisciplinary problems, right? We have to show these teachers that it's all related. So it's STEM, but it's really STEAM. You know, we're getting kids interested in technology, like the chef on the team from Finland, and he's learning by rubbing shoulders with these other students. And so what we're doing, and I didn't have time to show it, in the Epic Education Foundation, we're creating this ecosystem where we could monitor how these students are doing in a secure environment, totally protected, IRB compliant with and anonymizing the students' names. We can understand how they're learning, right? We could measure how they're performing in teams just by monitoring their communication. I didn't have time to show you this, but that's what the foundation, that's what's really interesting to me now. I used to design hypersonic stuff like the stuff I flew for hypersonic vehicles. I'm very much interested in doing research in education. We're teaming up with universities. And so if you have a university that has an education department, that's perfect because what we want to do is collect this information, have the people that are doing learning analytics. We're working with teams at University of South Australia, for instance, that has a center for complexity, learning, and change in education. And we want to be able to analyze how these students are doing, to measure how they're doing. So we want the education departments, we want the science departments, we even want the arts departments and the business departments, right? Because at these, when I was trying to train young NASA engineers, we had an issue with the program managers. They did not know how to manage technical programs like SpaceX. NASA used to be like SpaceX. When I was a young man working at NASA, we used to be really innovative and do really cool stuff, right? And so, how do we get back and change the culture? at NASA, at these other places. And so we want these new business and program managers to be raised in a new culture. They have to be not so, they have to be tolerant of failure, right? And at NASA, they're not tolerant of failure. They have to allow people to try things and fail, just like Elon Musk, right? And so it's very much, you can get students from the business, the entrepreneurship departments at the universities, the definitely the sciences, but also the arts, right? We want those creatives. Another follow-up question.
Yes, with that in mind, do you have some sort of one-page splash
I was
overview
going on the same thing.
that would be palatable or a quick visual that we could put onto whatever people, to the contacts that we send these to?
You know, I am terrible. I am the worst. I'm a typical NASA engineering geek, right? So I have no creative ability when it comes to that. I have no artistic ability, right? I could draw like Fred Flintstone from the matchbook thing, but that's all I could do. And so you're absolutely right. When you saw that that flyer, for instance, we finally had somebody do an actual flyer for us that looked good. If you would have looked at what my flyer looked like, it was terrible. And what I could do when you send me your information, I could send you a link that has tons of information,
Okay,
tons of reports and links about the program, right? I think if you go to that BioMars, you go to that YouTube video, that BioMars, and I think the kids in Finland did it the best, demonstrated it the best. Because what you're going to see in that one video is the graduate students that understood photonics and how light affects the way, the rate at which the plants grow. You have the chef demonstrate how he developed the food and created food. And what you have is three different levels. You'll have high school students, undergrads, and graduate students. And what was amazing is at one point, the students had to present, and the graduate students weren't there. And this young lady that was from one of the high schools presented, and it was amazing the job that she did, the confidence that you could see. And that's the other thing. We need more women in STEM, in engineering. We have to solve this problem. So I'm going to work on that. I'm going to work on the one visual.
here's the benefit of it. You know, when you go for your doctorate and you have to go out and get your research and you have to go out and solicit people to participate, and you do a nice little splash that makes it enticing and interesting, that's just enough information to share with them, and then we can provide them the links if they want to look deeper. If they're, I don't mind helping with that, if that's something.
That's what I was just going to ask you. You send me your name. I'm going to hook you up with my marketing lady and the lady that is in Finland. That I didn't get to show you a picture of her. Amazing lady. She was the first graduate student to take this class, right? She was on, I think she was on the BioMars team. Yeah. Her name is Anna Gebeyesh. She's now our chief learning officer. She taught the program in Finland for 5 years, and we will hook up and you will help us compose that visual.
Well, here's why. There's another lady in this room, and we both are in the same boat as it relates to our area. Our area is ready for what you are describing right now.
What is your area in Florida, by the way?
You mean as far as our
Is it,
career area, or just the area?
well, which area were you talking about? Was it a local area or?
We're in the central Florida from west to east, right? Pretty much, we have the central sliver of Florida. And I know I'm associated with USF and St. Leo and SPC, and she's probably associated with UCF and other universities in the local area. And we're all doing something interdisciplinary and STEM, but we're still hitting bureaucratic things related to this. And if we can make this a groundswell that is a collaboration between us who are in, say, education, still maybe teaching in a classroom, with the universities that we've been educated with, who are trying to loop back and get all of this that you're talking about, we're ready for this. So if we can get this flashed out there and start making something happen.
If you could help me beat the drum on social media and get these folks to come to this event because we are connected with the Swamp Works, of course, people at NASA, my friends at the Swamp Works at Kennedy Space Center, University of Central Florida, and a lot of these universities have been working on what they call lunabotics challenges at the university level. What we want to do is now connect this and make it more formal and learn how these universities work together in teams, but connect them with the high schools and the technical schools. And that's where the magic can really happen. And when we create this content with our partners, every teacher around the world will be able to access it. So if you connect with me next week, we'll set up a meeting, and you can get all the interested parties on a Zoom meeting. We'll push the people to basically, if you want to learn as much as you can about it, to come May 22nd and 23rd. I had to pick a Saturday and Sunday. We were going to do it during the week, but it was just impossible because the teachers are so challenged with COVID and they're so overworked. And now we're asking them to come to work on a Saturday and Sunday. I feel for you.
Well, I gotta sell my race tickets to come now.
We will make it fun. I promise you, we will have fun.
I saw you out at the 50th anniversary of Apollo at NASA. That was a great program. I'm pretty sure you were there.
I don't think so. I don't think they invited me.
Oh, it was another one then, because I remember you presenting on the Epic.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, I
maybe
think I have
it
your
was.
card. I am ready to retire, but I teach art, and I also have K through 12 and everything, plus gifted. And the two I love the interdisciplinary. That's one of the reasons I want to retire, is because they're still teaching math and reading in 5th grade. They're not, whereas art, they learn everything. I mean, my focus was light and the light spectrum and the colors, and so I can teach everything there. I did the history of aviation with the gifted kids. So
You're gonna love this. You know, Anna Gabeyish was a photonics student. That's what she majored in, computer science and photonics.
kids are so interested. They are so interested in, so I know you're only looking at high school and beyond, but Orange County has such a long way to go. I would love to help.
No, you know, we're looking at high school now, but I really believe we could push this down to middle school, elementary school.
Oh my gosh.
I'm a grandparent. I'm teaching this to my grandkids.
I teach up. I
And-
couldn't be doing my art courses at the university level.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, we could do this, and you're never going to retire. You're going to be like me because you love what you're doing, and this isn't a job, and we love doing this stuff, right?
Yeah, I do. I absolutely do.
Well, my wife is an artist, so you come to the challenge, and you and my wife will have a good time.
Great. Thank you. I'm glad it's on a weekend because we can't get subs now.
We'll have fun. Plus, you'll have access to the Kennedy Space Center Visitors Complex. We'll hang out. We'll go visit the space shuttle. And by the way, we're going to have satellite locations in parallel. I forgot to mention this. So we're going to be teaming up with students and educators in Brazil, Australia. So we went from Finland to Australia. Now we're moving out to Brazil and Mexico and also Finland. And they'll be coming in and out on the program depending on the time zone. We'll be checking in with them how they're doing.
I know thank you too. I have one more quick question.
Okay.
Is your site the pandemicproof.world?
That's another site. Right? So there are several sites, epiceducationfoundation.org, right? And we set up a separate website for the Pandemic Proof Challenge. And actually, our students are going to present earlier in that week on the work they've been doing on the Pandemic Proof Challenge. And so we had to make it epic. I mean, anybody could solve a pandemic, but we wanted to come up with a pandemic proof world. You have to make it epic.
That's awesome.
Okay, well, I guess we're just about out of time, Dr. Camarda.
Well, I want to thank you again, Barbara, and please thank the friends at Sun and Fun, and say hi to my good friend Winston Scott. He's amazing. Go watch Winston speak. Amazing guy.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
They're all saying thank you.
Thank
Brilliant.
you. I
And-
hear you. Thank you very much. And Barbara, if you could send me the link to the video, that would be awesome.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you. We're all headed over now to hear Winston.
Okay, great.
All
Bye-bye.
right, take care. Bye-bye.
I miss yours.
Yep.
Yeah, we definitely. Are you associated with what
go?
university?
Well, several.
Yeah, that's what
Or different reasons.
Yeah, no, I get that.